He's alive. Alive! I have created life. There. That will make you feel better. A toast. In celebration. I have made a man.
That's right, everybody. Video Game Esoterica is here this Halloween season. I'm going to help make you a man. And I'm going to do it with the help of Tim Curry from Rocky Horror Picture Show, who starred in a 90s FMV point-and-click adventure game called Frankenstein. I can't make this stuff up. It is that weird and strange, and it basically seems to be a remake of Rocky Horror if you just put the Frankenstein environment on top of it in some really fun and weird ways that I will point out throughout the video. But this is actually a really good, competent 90s point-and-click adventure game, and if you grew up playing these, you're absolutely going to love it if you've never played it before. If you don't love the genre, there's probably nothing here for you outside of the fun we're gonna have. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, did you play these type of games back in the day, or was it too late for you? But the best part about this game is Tim Curry himself. He is overacting the hell out of everything, but because it's Tim Curry, it actually works, and there's so many sly nods to different movies he's been in. But I gotta give you just a taste of his acting, because we're gonna be featuring it throughout the video. 20 seconds, and I'll be right back.
I have created life, proving once again what I have always known to be true. Modesty be damned! I am a genius!
I mean, Tim Curry was definitely a genius, because I'm sure he got a very big paycheck for doing a game like this, but we actually have to talk about the game itself and how these things work if you've never played a point-and-click adventure game from the 90s. Be warned, it does use adventure game logic, which is to say the puzzle solutions have no logic in them whatsoever. When you finally figure out how to solve a puzzle, you're going to feel very confused as to how you did it, but you're going to be glad that you were able to figure it out. This is in the same school of logic as something like Myst or the Journeyman Project, where a lot of the things that you actually do don't make any contextual sense outside of you had the right items in your inventory to be able to continue in the game. But back in the day, we fell in love with this genre, and I still do love it and love playing around with it now and again. But I need to give you one more bit of Tim Curry acting. It sets up the rest of the video, and it is good, so enjoy. I'll be right back.
I just hope, Philip, that you turn out better than the last experiment. The flesh grew so uncontrollably thick and twisted like pork butt.
I mean, if you're talking about pork butt in a previous experiment, you're definitely talking about Meatloaf from Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's no two ways around that. And that again is why I wanted to do this video. It's such a fun thing. I was actually just getting a capture of this with the help of Andy D for a Sega Saturn Mr. testing video, but when I remembered how hilariously weird this game was, and it was horror themed, I realized it was perfect for an episode on Fridays. But again, as we get further into the game, trying to understand what you need to do is pure trial and error. You get to experiment with the world around you, you get to understand how things function, you get to find items, and you get to utilize those items later places in the game. But these are the type of things we all played back in the 90s. They were so much fun and such a unique experience, and compared to the graphics that existed back then, these sort of pre-rendered full motion video games also looked better, at least in still frames, than anything else you had ever seen before. There were two types of adventure games. There was a LucasArts or Sierra style that used 2D graphics, and then there were the games like Frankenstein or Myst that used all of these pre-rendered visuals a la D on the 3DO. I almost did that this Halloween, but I think you're going to have to wait till next year. But again, as we move around the environments, I do need to give the developers a lot of credit. This does feel like a dank, dark castle somewhere where Frankenstein's monster would actually be created. I love that they went full whole hog with the environments. Yes, that's a pork butt joke there with whole hog, and really sold all of this. You can even get behind the walls and see all of the different things that you could be looking at within the game. It is such a classic design, and even though this game gets made fun of just because of Tim Curry's acting, it is absolute gold. Gold like this following voice line that definitely calls back to Rocky Horror. Enjoy.
The servants have set up a room for you on the lower level. Please make yourself at home. A word of caution. Though you have had a serious concussion, to say the least, if you were to fall asleep, well, it would probably be fatal. Of course, dying itself is not a problem, but the hemorrhaging, it could cause more damage to your brain.
I'm sure Frankenstein's bedchamber was great too, because again, it seems like it's just calling back to Rocky Horror. But I will give this game credit as far as adventure games are concerned. It makes it easy to understand what you can click in the environment. That is always difficult in adventure games. Unless something sparkles, you're not quite sure if you can click it. But here, at least in Frankenstein, that pile of linguine on the wall, you 100% understand you're able to interact with that. Now, it might not make sense that you have to use 4 different pieces to create a kite here to send out the window, but once you figure out you can do it once, it kind of leads you into understanding what it is you need to do. Now, as far as the horror aspect is concerned, this definitely hews towards the B-movie hammer horror style of having those movie monsters within a game in and of itself. There's no real huge jump scares, there's nothing graphic or gory. It is that classic kind of 60s vibe going on. But of course, again, it is an adventure game, and sometimes this game is horrorful in all the wrong ways. We have this little passage here that's boarded up by all these 2x4s, and we have found a crowbar Gordon Freeman style. Unfortunately, to actually take this out of the wall, you don't just click once, you need to interact with so many different objects just to remove one panel, and you need to basically do it more than once. It's one of those things, the game seems to artificially be slowing you down, and sometimes it's scary in the ways that it didn't understand basic UI design elements and keeping the player happy. Sometimes it's scary because you encounter the exact same thing mere moments later and need to do it all over again. And of course, I mentioned Gordon Freeman and Half-Life because there's a crowbar, there's a valve. This is definitely in the Half-Life canon of games. It is part of that entire franchise. All jokes aside, of course it is not. But hey, it's my channel, so I can basically tell you anything and maybe you will believe it. But as we get further into the game, we've now found this rope and we're able to come over the castle's parapet here and look through a window and actually traverse through it. Although it seems like a big tetanus wrist to try to crawl through there. But navigating in this game is actually relatively easy. A lot of the corridors look the same and you definitely have to build a mental map. But each area of the castle has its own unique, distinct vibe and flair going on, so when you do enter another area, not only will you know you're not where you came from, but you're going to be intrigued all over again to see what's actually going on in the world around you. Because this castle opens up in levels and areas, the minute you feel like maybe you've been in one area too long, you solve a puzzle, and an entire chunk of the game opens up for you, basically refreshing the entire thing. We have indoor areas, outdoor areas, all sorts of different things to see and do, and that really works for the game. It is very refreshing, and as we come outside here, you get an entirely new environment. We've been in that castle with all of that dark dankness. Now we're able to actually get some sunlight in the game. But of course, sometimes the game is just going to drive you nuts. There's a piece of rope here, and it basically needs something to secure to this post. It's a rope, couldn't you just tie a knot? But no, you need to find something in the environment to use alongside this. But every time you get annoyed, you get a little bit more Tim Curry, and it's amazing. So take it away, Tim.
It seems someone, you most likely, has let the cat out of the bag. Or should I say, the thing out of the freezer. Your meddling must cease, or I will have to inject you with this potent sedative.
Geez, I wonder what thing got out of what freezer in what movie. It is Meatloaf, folks, and that is just incredible. And that's what I love about this game. If you've ever watched Rocky Horror Picture Show or know anything about kind of like Tim Curry's career, there's going to be nods to multiple different properties he's been in. I'm sure that's because the writers, when they realized they actually got Tim Curry, wrote around the fact of their favorite movies with him. As we get to the dining room table here, we find this drumstick, which is going to be part of the game. You just find a drumstick and that's how it works. That is adventure game logic, and you just need to wrap your head around that. And if you've never played this genre of games before, I can't recommend it enough. It is so weird, it's so strange, and it's such of a time and place of the 90s, like the mid to early 90s. You just can't get enough of these once you start into them. And honestly, pretty much all of these games are abandonware at this point in time. This wasn't just a Sega Saturn release. And interestingly enough, this game has a sequel. It doesn't involve Tim Curry. It involves Malcolm McDowell of Caligula fame. Now, of course, he's been in a lot better movies than that, but it's the one I always think of when I think of Malcolm McDowell. And that makes me think a Caligula game would have been a great time, but honestly, sometimes you just get to see Tim Curry eat a drumstick here. He just talks about the fact that it's dead flesh and it's a drumstick. The entire sequence here is just him talking about eating that drumstick. I didn't let you listen to it because it's just too absurd even for Halloween. It would probably just make everyone stop watching. Tim Curry eating a drumstick is too much even for me. But there's other references to other movie properties in this game. When you come outside here, of course you see hedges. I'm sure you're going to figure out very shortly what I'm going to be referring to. But I do love all the environments in this, the castle in the background, the grounds, all of the different puzzles. This world is chock full of things to see and do, and you really do become engrossed in the story and want to see how it ends. But of course it wouldn't be a horror game without a hedge maze, and of course we've been comparing this to Rocky Horror, but there's a little bit of Shining in here and there, and if you've somehow never watched that movie, definitely check it out. But this game is just one of those things that I always come back to and I always really enjoy and love. When I was talking to Andy about doing captures for Saturn, I said to cover this game because I was thinking about it because it was getting close to Halloween. And of course, you're in the kitchen, there's cleavers on the wall, this is a horror game, and you can't take a single one of them. It becomes a little bit difficult to understand what you can or can't take. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's just here for kind of like flavor environment text. You'll get a little bit of story here and there on notes, but a lot of times it's the visual storytelling that matters, and it's the acting that matters. So of course, I have to give you one more taste of Tim Curry before I close out this video, and this is some of the best, so enjoy, and I'll be right back.
Oh, yes. That is the reason you and I are having this conversation, Philip. The sole reason is because of Energy L. Well, to be specific, Energy L and the Lifestone crystal, of course. Now, gently put it back on the shelf. I have a theory. No, it is more. Energy moves, it flows like waves, mixing, shaping, affecting matter. Visible light is a particular energy wave, as is sound, electricity, and heat. Ergo, life itself is also an energy wave, a specific vibration. It is that simple. The mystery of life exposed.
Honestly, I could listen to Tim Curry deliver badly written video game dialogue all day long, and that is why I featured it on this Friday for our Halloween episodes for 2023. This game is a very special game. It's a hyper-competent adventure game with a horror theme that features the acting of Tim Curry doing the best job he possibly could with the script he's been given. And if you want to play more Tim Curry games, don't forget he is in Command & Conquer, and in there, he's overacting even more than anyone possibly could. Short of that, thanks for watching, hit like, subscribe, and I'm done. Bye-bye.